Hey there, this is Miss Caitlin from FIBO Kids Art Academy and welcome to another amazing art class. Today I want to share with you an incredible artist by the name of Angélica Dass. Now Angélica Dass is a famous photographer from Brazil, though she currently lives in Spain. Her most famous body of work is called Humanae. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at that today and talk about its importance, and we're going to create a portrait of our artist for today's project. So without further ado, let me actually go ahead and show you a picture of Angélica Dass's work. So here we have just a small collection of the body of work for Humanae. Now, this is a catalog of thousands of human skin colors where we have a portrait of a person with their Pantone behind them. So what does that mean? So a Pantone is an international color matching system that's used across many different industries like photography in this case, as well as graphic design, painting, printing, etc. Now, what Angélica Dass has done is she's taken a photo of a person, and the background was originally white. She takes about a couple of pixels of the color from the person's nose and matches that to the background. Now, to quote herself from what she said about her artwork, she says, "These colors make us see each other as different, even though we are all equal." So her work, she seeks to point out the issues with socially constructed ideas of race, and she hopes that we can deconstruct them together. Now, beyond being an incredible body of work, this project is really important for other reasons, and it's been able to be used as a tool by many others, such as illustrators and artists, to be used as references, seeing a gigantic, essentially, catalog of all the beautiful people in the world that had volunteered or were a part of this project. They're really great for artists to sort of use as references to see, how are the different ways that I can approach drawing a portrait. As well, it's been a part of political magazines. It was actually the cover for Foreign Affairs, which is one of the most prominent political magazines out there. It's also been used by teachers as a tool for education, which is kind of what we're doing today. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our artist today. Here's just a photograph of her. So here's Miss Angélica Dass, and we're going to be creating a portrait of her. So let's go ahead and take a look at our table and see what we're going to be needing. So here is the picture that we're going to be creating today, and we're going to be using acrylic paints to do this. We're also going to need a pencil, eraser, and Sharpie. And in the spirit of the Humanae project, we are going to go ahead and also talk about how to mix different skin colors. So let's go ahead and get our desk ready to do that. I'm going to go ahead and set our example off to the side. We'll come back to her later. And I'm going to go ahead and just set my pencil, eraser, and Sharpie off to the side. You won't need a Sharpie today. I'm just going to use it to draw so that way you can see my pencil lines. But right now, just go ahead and take out a piece of paper that can handle paint. It doesn't matter which way it's facing, but go ahead and just set that out in front of you. And you're going to need some acrylic paint. Now, when mixing skin color, you actually can use the three primary colors. These colors make all the other colors on the color wheel, and we can use them to create a variety of different skin tones. You might also want to have some white paint around as well, because that'll help with creating some of the lighter skin tones as well. Now, as for a palette, I'm going to be using just paper plates today. You're going to need some brushes and a water bucket, of course. You're also going to need a paper towel because we are going to be using acrylic paint, and I'll sort of guide us through how to create these colors. Now, of course, if you don't have all of these different colors here, you could also grab, or maybe you have these already, some acrylic paint that's a little bit closer to what skin colors might already look like. Now, these, of course, there's only 3 of them here, and as we can see from Angélica Dass's work, there are way more than just these 3 skin colors. But we can use these as a way to sort of mix all the other ones too, but your handy dandy colors are going to be the primary ones, because from there we can again make all the other different varieties of colors. All right, so first let's go ahead and learn how can we mix the primary colors to create different skin tones. So go ahead and take some red. We're going to need some blue. And we're also going to need yellow. Now, another industry that focuses a lot, or can focus on skin tone that we use in everyday life, is the makeup industry. So maybe, I don't know, maybe if one of your parents or maybe you also get the chance to play with makeup, if you've ever heard of foundation, That's the part of makeup that goes on your skin to sort of like almost even anything out or cover things and sort of create like this base to put other things on top of, like, you know, blush, eyeshadow sometimes, etc. And artists, and makeup artists specifically, will have to use a lot of color theory in order to create a wide variety of foundations to accommodate for the wide variety of different skin colors that are out there in the world. So here we have our primary colors and a little bit of white if you want to, again, make some of them more lighter skin tones, but these three are going to be the ones we want today. So go ahead and take a brush. It can be any size. We're just going to practice making a couple of skin tones. Now, skin tones, there isn't just one standard skin tone. That's very important. Skin tone can be warm, it can be cool, it can even be neutral. I know for a fact that my skin tone is actually of a lighter complexion and it's more on the neutral side, which means there's not a lot of pink in my skin. There's also not a lot of like olive or yellow undertones. It's pretty much just a beige. And so for mine, if I was going to make it, I would probably have to consider that. But let's start off with first mixing up a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow. This is probably going to give you an orange. Now I encourage you, mix that all in. And then, might need just a little bit more yellow. I think I actually added a little too much red. That's okay. Now we have something a little bit closer to orange. And from here, you can add in a little bit of blue. Now, you don't want to add too much blue because blue is actually the darkest of our two primary colors, but watch what happens as we add in the blue to the orange that we created. We actually get this really stunning brown color. This color almost reminds me of, it looks a little bit darker than a cinnamon stick. It's very warm because it still has a lot of that red color in it and not a lot of blue undertones. Which is another thing that we can find in skin tone. Sometimes people will have a little bit of a bluer undertone to their skin, which cools it off or makes it appear cooler. So with the skin tone that we mix together, it's okay if it's not exactly the same color as mine. I think experimenting and finding out how different colors mix together will be most beneficial to you, but let's go ahead and take this skin tone that we've created and let's just go ahead and paint a little square of it on our paper. This square does not need to be perfect at all, but this will be kind of like a little swatch of color that we've created. Now, if you really know your color theory, you would know that blue and orange are complementary. And when you mix complementary colors, they create brown. All right, a really lovely brown color we have. Let's go ahead and mix another skin color. So you can experiment a little bit for yourself, but what I want you to try and do for this little exercise is I want you to create a wide variety of different skin tones today. So you're going to want some that are maybe a little bit lighter, some that are a little bit darker, maybe some in between. You can even try and experiment and see if you can create your own skin tone. For me, I'm going to go ahead and mix up maybe a little bit more of a new skin tone. So I'm going to start off with blue, I think. And I'm going to add in some yellow. Now this, of course, is going to give me some variety of green. Okay, so it might be a little difficult for you to tell. That isn't black, that is actually a very dark blue-green. And I think it's because I may have mixed a little bit of red into it. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of red from before and mix that in. And this again gives us a very deep skin tone here. That's beautiful. This one reminds me a little bit of like coffee before you put creamer in it, like freshly brewed coffee. I know you probably don't drink coffee, and if you do, I hope it's in moderation, but for me, I drink lots, so I love it. All right, again, with this other skin tone, you can go ahead and put a little swatch of color on your paper somewhere. I'm going to put mine here. Now this one, this color is a little bit cooler. Now again, I know that might be something new for you to think about, but for me, I can tell that it's got a little bit more blue to it. So it appears to be of a cooler tone. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and clean off my brush. You can clean off your brush between each skin tone, or you can just keep going and seeing what colors you make. So we've got two really lovely deep skin tones. Let's go ahead and make another one. Make sure that you dry your brush off on a paper towel. And from here, we can go ahead and keep moving. Okay, so what would happen if we added in a little bit of the white paint into the mixture? So let's go ahead. For me, I'm gonna go ahead and experiment with that. I'm gonna add a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue. I'll mix it right here. It's okay if this palette gets a little dirty. We're really going to be using probably a different one for our painting here in a minute. And right now, like I said, we're just experimenting and seeing how all of these colors mix together to create something new. All right, so here we have a little bit more of that color from before. I'm actually going to add a little bit more yellow into it. Even that has changed it slightly. And now let's see what happens when we add in just a little bit of this white paint. Ooh, that's changed it quite a lot. All right, so now we have an entirely different color here. It's a little bit lighter. This, let's see. That's a lovely color here. We can add in just a little bit more. Really mix that in. We have ourselves something a little bit more of a medium tone. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this swatch right here. So here is another swatch of color. All right. Okay, there's another one. Let's go ahead and make some more. I can actually continue lightening this color if I wanted to and make almost like a range of all these different colors out of just this one. You could do the same with any of the tones that you have mixed today. Okay, so you can see adding white, you can even see on my palette kind of this range I have going on here. What a difference that makes. And now we have an entirely new color to work with. Let's go ahead and make a swatch of this color. Now, what I've done here is, really I've got a lot of colors, but as we know, and especially from Angélica Dass's work, there are many more tones that we could paint, besides for just the few that we're trying out today. And again, maybe yours that you've painted look different than mine, and that's okay. Wow, look at that. So many. Now there are also skin tones that are very, very light. You can see again on my palette, we almost have like all the different ranges of colors here that are also on the paper. Let's go ahead and create a swatch for this color. I'll put it here. These almost look like blocks, don't they? So now we have more of like a beige. Nice. Now again, you can, if you want to restart, if you're darkening or lighting, you're lightening some of the colors here to create different kinds of complexions, that's great. You can always also start over, mix up some of the primary colors. Again, here's that kind of green. You can see it a little bit better now because I had white on my brush. I didn't bother cleaning it off. But if we add in a little bit of red, you can see how it changes again. So here we have, again, an entirely different tone that we could use for skin. And even adding in a little bit of the white paint has changed it ever so slightly. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is well mixed on my brush, and then I think let's go ahead and add this to our swatches. Ooh, that's pretty. All right, I think I'm going to put this color right here. So still a very deep color, but you can see how vastly different it can be from the other ones we've created. All right, let's mix one more together. So for this, again, if you haven't already tried seeing if you can mix your own skin tone, give it a shot. Otherwise, go ahead and try and mix another completely unique skin tone. You can start over by trying out different combinations of the primary colors, adjusting, if it's got more blue, more yellow, more red. You can also play with adding in a little bit of the white paint into it to see how much you can change it. Now, again, be careful as you're mixing. If you take an entire big scoop of blue and hardly any red or yellow, you're probably going to end up with blue. So just be mindful of how much you're using at a time. It's okay to go slow and be careful in this process. I'm running out of room on my palette, but I think I'm actually going to go ahead and use up the rest of this yellow paint here. I'm going to mix in some of the red that was already kind of in it already, and maybe a little bit from the brush. Again, you can clean off your brush in between these colors, but for me, I'm just going to continue using what's on here. But if you would like a more accurate and more control over your color, then you can clean off that brush. Now here we have a really warm tone. It's got a lot of the yellow showing through as well as a bit of the red. It's quite different from the ones that we've mixed already, and still quite lovely. Now because I had white on my brush from before, there is a little bit of white in here, just a smidge. Even so, just changing our combination of colors ever so slightly has created a new color. Let's put this one right here. So still another very warm tone, but it's a little bit different from the one we have here, which I think is another warm tone. This one almost looks like a tan. Almost gold in color. All right, so we have lots of different swatches of colors here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and switch gears and create a portrait of our artist. Now, using this knowledge of how to make different skin tones, you can use the knowledge of how to create what we're going to be doing here, a portrait of a person, to create your own self-portrait in the spirit of the Humanae project, or the Humanae project, excuse me. Let's go ahead and clean off our brush and get ready to draw our portrait of Angélica Dass. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that brush is super duper clean. This palette, if you're like me, I can't really use too much of this paint, or at least all those other colors, because it's probably going to end up drying by the time we get to the coloring, but I always like to save paint. So I'll just kind of keep that off to the side, and if it comes into play later, then I'll try and use up some of that paint. All right, I would keep this around. You can use this as sort of like a reference for yourself for all the different sort of skin tones or even different tones that you can just create with just our primary colors. Set this off to the side and we'll come back to it later. So now we're going to go ahead and dive into our drawing. For this, for our painting today, you're going to want to draw onto a piece of paper that can handle paint. So for me, I have an illustration paper. You can use a Bristol paper if you want, or if you're feeling particularly fancy, you could use canvas. Now I'm going to be drawing with a Sharpie today, just so that you can see my lines. Pencil doesn't show up super well on my camera here. So for you, I want you to use a pencil for this, but for me, I'm going to use a Sharpie. Now for the drawing today, I want you to make sure that you've got an eraser on hand. Because I'm going to be using Sharpie, I'll be explaining which lines you need to erase, but you won't see them erased because again, Sharpie. Let's go ahead and begin. Go ahead and turn your paper so that it is vertical, tall like a milkshake. And what we're going to do first is we are going to draw a basic shape for the head. Now, for this basic shape, we're going to be drawing a rather large oval. So go ahead and draw a large oval on your paper. Again, the artist is our main subject today. So you're going to want to draw this oval big. All right, so there's the oval. If you need to erase and adjust, that's fine. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start placing features on the face. Now, if maybe you are an older student, I would encourage you to have, or rather, even if you're a younger student, I would encourage you to have a photo of Angélica Dass nearby, so that way you can kind of reference the photo and draw her facial features more accurately. I'm going to be drawing a very simple version of her portrait today, but I would encourage you to always go the extra mile and observe the contours of her face as well as the contours, of her different features. And that's with anything, not just this project. Now let's go ahead and begin by placing the eyes. Now our eyes go halfway on our face. So you're going to look at the oval that you've drawn, find about halfway, and you're going to draw 2 rainbow lines. This is for the top lid. Then you are going to draw a U shape underneath. Now, in real life, our eyes are likened to something like the shape of a leaf or an almond. Everybody has different eye shapes, which makes us, again, all really wonderful in our diversity. So you're going to want to try and think of that as you're drawing. And again, I encourage you to look at an actual photo of our artist to get a better idea of the shape. Next, we're going to draw the irises. For the iris, we know that that's the colored part of your eye, by the way, that it is a circle. But when our eyes are relaxed, we actually can't see the entirety of the circle because our upper lids and sometimes our lower lids are covering it just a bit. So you're going to be drawing a curved line and a curved line on the inside to create the iris. You also can draw in the pupil at this point. That's just going to be a circle. The pupil is the part of your eye that takes in light. Now we can go ahead and draw in the nose. Your nose goes halfway between your eyes and your chin. So halfway would be right about here. For our nose today, we're going to draw a U shape. We're going to draw in the nostrils, almost like tiny ovals. And then we're going to draw in the sides of the nostrils. So that's going to be a curved line and a curved line. Next, we're going to go ahead and draw in the mouth. For our mouth today, or in general, mouth goes halfway between the nose and the chin. So the mouth is going to go right about here. You can draw a wide letter U to create a smile. And then for the lips, here are the shapes that at least I noticed. Now, we all have different mouth shapes, but Dass's lip shape, she has almost like a letter M for the top and a U for the bottom. So you're going to draw a very curved letter M for the top and a U shape for the bottom. All right, so now we've got the face. We can add in other features like the eyebrows. So for her eyebrows, usually when we draw them, we might draw just, 2 two rainbow lines, but if you actually look at a picture for her eyebrows, she has very lovely natural eyebrows. I have very dark eyebrows in comparison. For hers, you can add in short little lines to create that very natural look of her eyebrows. Our eyebrows are made up of little hairs. If you've ever looked very closely at yours, you'll probably notice, oh, I have like little hairs that stick up in different directions. Again, everybody is different in how their eyebrows look. Some of us might have eyebrows like mine that are very dark. Some of us have very thin, sometimes really nice thick eyebrows too. And then if you'd like to add extra details like eyelids or lines to show the eyelids, maybe a curved line to show where the bridge of the nose begins. You can add in her eyelashes now if you'd like, but we are going to be painting over them. You can even add some lower lashes if you'd like. At this point, again, if you are feeling more advanced and want more of a challenge, I would encourage you to go about looking at more of the contours of the face to make it look even more realistic. Next, we're going to go ahead and draw in the ears. Now, for our picture today, you may have noticed that she is wearing a headband, so most of the ears are going to get covered up. We're still going to draw them in so that way we have an idea of where to place them. Now, your ears line up to the eyes and the nose on your face. So we're going to draw a curved line on the side here, and a curved line on the side here. Should line up with the eyes and the nose. Next, we're going to go ahead and draw in the neck and the shoulders. So you're going to go underneath the head, and you're going to draw 2 lines down, and then 2 lines out. All right, let's go ahead and add in the headband, and then we'll draw in just a shape for her hair. Now she has this really lovely curly voluminous hair, and for that today I'll actually show you a painting technique to make painting the hair really, really fun. For now, we'll draw in sort of like a general shape because in a lot of the photographs she has her hair up. Now we're going to draw the headband first. So for the headband, it is covering her ears just slightly. We're going to start on the right side. So first I want you to make almost like a letter C right here. And you're going to draw a curved line down that touches about maybe halfway or just below the halfway point on the ear. You're going to go to the top, draw a curved line down that comes around and also meets at that point of the ear. From here, you need to erase this part of the ear and any part of the basic shape that's going through your head. So what we can do, at least for me, to show you this, I have this pink marker. You're going to erase again, here and here. Okay, next, you're going to start from your C shape, draw a curved line down, again, touching about just below halfway on the ear. Start from maybe the top of the C, curved line down, touches that halfway point on the ear. Same thing. Erase any part of the head and the ear that we will no longer be able to see through the headband. All right. Now she does have a bit of her hair kind of poking out from her forehead on the headband here. For that, you're going to draw just simply the letter V. Now, we are going to be painting in and tackling more of the texture of her hair and the curls and the coloring steps, but for now, she has this really pretty curly hair. You can start on the side, either side of the headband, and you can draw curved lines going up. Again, just to give us an idea of where this is going to go, but we are going to go into more detail in the coloring steps. You can see some of her curls kind of come out a little bit. But again, most of that's going to get covered up with paint anyway, so we don't have to get into too much detail right now. As for her shirt today, you can decide what kind of shirt you would like her to wear. I'm going to give her a turtleneck, but maybe you want to give her like a t-shirt, or she could be wearing a sweater. That's going to be up to you. For the shirt that I've made in our example today, I've drawn a turtleneck. So I'm going to go pretty high onto the neck. I'm going to draw a curved line 2 small curved lines coming out on the tops of the neck there. Draw 2 lines down and a curved line. And then the rest of this will become that turtleneck sweater. This means that I need to erase any part of the neck and a little bit of that shoulder that you would see through the collar of the turtleneck. And with that, that's it. That's all the drawing steps. From here, we can go ahead and start coloring. Now, in order to make this easy on the both of us, so that way we can see, what this picture looks like without all of my eraser lines that I can't erase, I actually have another example of what your picture probably looks like now in pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out to show you. All right, so here we are. I know it's in pencil, so it's a little tricky to see, but we're going to work through this together. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move through the coloring a little fast, so you can pause the video whenever you need to, so that way you can feel comfortable going at your own pace. Now, what I like to do first is I actually like to get my colors ready. I already know that I'm going to be using a little bit of white for the whites of the eyes and for the headband. However, I also know that I'm going to be mixing up a lot of her skin tone today because we're going to be a little bit inspired by her artwork and her photography for Humanae. And so we're going to not only use the skin tone for her face, but we're also going to put it into the background. So I'm going to really have to make sure I have enough of those colors. So I'm still going to have my primary colors probably on my one palette here. Again, I haven't forgotten about my extra palette off on the side. That'll come back later. But I have this extra palette here in case I need more space. All right, I actually think I might need a little bit more of some of these colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some more. Now, as for your brushes, I would encourage you to have a large brush, a medium brush, and a small brush. This is going to make it easier for you to, adjust to get into the different parts of the portrait. Okay, so like I said, I actually usually like to do the whites of the eyes first, just because I can paint over them later. And once I have this part filled in, I don't have to worry about, trying to go around or be super careful with the skin tone later. So I just like to fill this part in now. And since this is acrylic paint, even if we do accidentally go over our eyes at any point, we can always paint them back in once the acrylic paint has dried. So there's no pressure, no worries. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and fill in the skin tone. So for this, I'm going to be using a rather large brush to mix up our color today. And for her skin tone, I'm going to be trying to create the exact color that we have in our example. So I can see it as a reference, I'm going to go ahead and keep this here. Maybe you want to see it too, and I'm going to go ahead and mix up this color here. So let's see, I spy a bit of red. It's a little bit of yellow in there. There's definitely a smidgen of blue. Let's mix that up and see how close we get. So this is still quite red in color. It's gotten a little brown. Let's pick up a little more of the yellow, mix that in. Take a little white. Not too much though. Start mixing that in. And you might have to, again, be very careful because you're trying to make sure that you're mixing all of this color. I think I might need actually to use a lot more yellow than I do red. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to my other palette here. Just mix up some yellow to see. Okay, so that's created this really nice orange. Again, it's okay if you need to spend some time really mixing in your color. And if you need to make small adjustments, that's okay. Just keep working the color. I think we need a little bit more blue in there. Okay. close to the tone, but I think I might need to add a little bit more of the white. Okay, yeah, that's getting us a little closer there. This is a lovely color, but I'm trying to make it as close as I can to the one here. And once you've got the color, you want to mix, 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 mix a whole lot of it. So that way we can paint these large areas. You can see now I have to mix a whole bunch. You're probably going to end up with a lot of color on your brush. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and create a whole bunch more of this color. You can go ahead and create it along with me. And then I'm going to also go ahead and resume with you. And we can go ahead and begin to paint together. All right, so I'm done mixing this color off our screen here. And so you see it's pretty close. I ended up having to mix in a little bit more of the yellow and the white to get the skin color the exact way that I have here. So now that you have your skin color, again, it's okay if maybe you need to spend a little bit more time with it, but let's go ahead and begin. So for this, you can go ahead and take your brush and start carefully filling in the skin. Now again, if you need to spend more time filling in your, or rather mixing in your skin color, that's okay. Just take your time, there's no rush. You can pause this video as you need. Even for me, to make sure I got it accurate, I mixed in the color so that you can see. Now, of course, if you want to switch to maybe a medium brush in order to get around some of the more detailed areas, that's fine. You can see for me, I actually have just colored over the eyebrows, which is okay, because we can always paint them back in later. But for the skin, as you're working, I would encourage you to try your best to go around the eyes. Try your best just to not color over them. Even if you do, that's okay. You can always let it just dry and paint them back in later. But try your best to go around your eyes. It's helpful first to outline an area that you're coloring in and then painting. So that way you don't have to worry about trying to make the edges all neat and smooth because you would have already done that at the beginning. Okay, so just continuing filling everything in. I also would encourage you to do the same for around the lips. Try your best to kind of just go around them as you can. For the nose, you might end up having to actually go over some of the parts. And we'll paint that back in too. If it's helpful, you can leave the nostrils blank, so that way you remember the placement. Now we certainly can't forget the chin down here. Let's go ahead and fill that in. And also being mindful of the mouth. And just carefully filling in around that area. And getting the sides of the face. There we go. All right. So we've got the face filled in. Let's go ahead and fill in the ears. So you can take the color, fill in the ears. Okay. And we can also take this time to fill in the neck. Now, I don't know about you, but I got a lot of paint on my hands, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take a second to just clean that off. It's probably on my brush. If you notice that you're just having a lot of paint on your hands, it's probably a good opportunity to just wipe things down, so that way we can stay as neat as possible as we're painting. Okay. Alrighty. Now we are going to go ahead and fill in the neck, but I want us to use a slightly darker color because our neck is usually covered with a shadow of some kind. You can even see on my neck right now, we have the shadow of like my chin. And depending on where the light source is, it's also going to create a shadow on one side, highlight on the other. So what I want you to do is take a little bit of our color that we made and just add a little bit of blue. Just a little bit. You can see I've switched brushes in order to do this. We want to make it just a little bit darker to create a shadow. And what you're going to do with this color is you are going to use this on the neck, being mindful of the placement of the chin, curving up, then down. Now I'm going to fill in the entire face with you guys and the entire person, but I'm going to have you fill in the backgrounds on your own. It's the same color that we've mixed for the skin, so it'll be pretty easy for you to do that. Now, to make sure that this still stands out and make sure it still matches everything, let's take our original skin color and right on top, on the right side, we'll just put a little bit of that here to lighten it up. Okay. All right. Go ahead and wash off that brush. Make sure all your brushes are clean. And let's go ahead and fill in some other parts of our person here before we start filling in facial features. Now, the reason for this is because all of this is still drying. So we can't fill it in just yet because if we try to, we might accidentally smudge something. So let's go ahead and fill in the hair, and then we can fill in the headband. Now for her hair, she has very dark hair. So you can either use brown or you can also use black. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and make sure my brush is nice and clean. I'm going to be using my large brush in order to do this. And with the large brush, I'm going to pick up some of this color and I'm going to go ahead and fill in the space for the hair. Now what you can do to help her hair look curly like it does in real life is I'm kind of moving my brush in little circles like this. And this helps create sort of the texture of the curls. Now you definitely want to make sure that you're being neat. So outline around the headband first, and then you can continue using those swirling strokes to create the hair. Now what I would do is I wouldn't put too much effort into it right now for creating the details of the curls on the sides. What you see here, those are really cool, but those will get covered up once you do your background. Now that's okay, because you can always add in details later. In fact, when painting, you usually want to add in the details at the end because of cases like this. Of course, there are many other ways you can go about creating a painting. Many artists will do backgrounds first. You could do that too, but today I wanted to show you the person or our portrait's face here. So I've gone ahead and done the face first, though usually you want to do the background first. Now don't forget there's a little bit of the hair that's peeking through the headband here. So you want to go ahead and fill that in too. Okay. Then go ahead and clean off that brush. And you can go ahead and choose a color for your shirt. Now, my shirt is actually going to be the same color as it is in our example today. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the same color and go ahead and fill in the clothing. Okay, so again, for this part, it might be different for you. For me, I'm just going off of what I've already created. And filling everything in. Okay. As well, when you're using your acrylic paints, make sure that you are really smoothing out any little lumps of paint that might appear. Acrylic paint for our picture today is going to look best smooth. Okay. Nice solid color. And now our face is mostly dry, so we can go ahead and start working on some of those features. For this, again, you might want to be using a medium or a small brush. Let's go ahead and fill in the eyes. Now for her eye color, again, it's a very deep, beautiful color here. So I'm going to be mixing in some of the brown that we already kind of have. And I can mix in a little bit more of the blue to create a deeper brown color. I think I might want to go a little bit deeper. See if we can. We can also just take our primary colors, red and yellow, and mix those in too to create a deeper color. All right, looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and use this and fill in the eyes. So being very careful, you might want to wipe off any extra color you have on your brush, so that way you don't have too much, and you're just going to fill in the eyes here. Okay. And do so for both. Again, just make sure you don't have too much color on your brush. What happens in those cases is we might get a lump of paint on the inside of the eye, and that's kind of hard to smooth out. So just be careful as you're working and filling this in. Okay. You can also use actual black paint to do the pupil. I would wait for this part to dry, but I will show you so that you can see. Again, I would wait for your eyes to dry before doing this. You can take black paint and fill in the pupil when it's dry, and it'll look something kind of like this when it's done. Same thing, both eyes. Okay. Next, we can go ahead and outline the eyes. For this, you could either wait for your entire painting to be done and do this with like permanent markers of some kind, but if you're going to do this in paint, I recommend you use a small brush with just a bit of paint on it. Again, I am just using the colors that we had mixed up from before. And I'm going to go ahead and use these to outline the eyes. Now this part you'll have to be very careful on, but using the very top of your brush, you're going to outline the top and the bottom eyelids. In fact, I think I might need to make my color a little bit darker. A lot of this is mixing colors and comparing and contrasting where we need to add contrast. All right, I think that's a little bit deeper of a color. Let's go ahead and give this a try. Much better. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off some of that extra paint. Fill in the outline for the bottom. Again, I'm using very light hand to help create the outline. You can also go back in with the small brush and add in eyelashes. You can add on the top and or on the bottom. Now with our colors, we can also go in and add in the nose once more. Now, so for the nose, you can take your small brush and fill in the nostrils. We'll probably have to also fill those in with black, but you can use this brown color that we've created, almost like the color we made for the neck, the shadow, to put back the U shape for the nose, as well as put back the sides of the nostrils. As I mentioned, for the nostrils themselves, we might need to go in with either black, or you might need to use a very dark brown. Okay. Very small, detailed work, but it will be worth it in the end. And we also need to add, like I've mentioned, shading. So we'll take a little bit of our dark color from before. We can add a little bit of shading underneath the nose here, around the nostrils. You can also, at this point, add in other details, such as the curve of the nose as it turns into the nose bridge. You can add a part of the nose kind of curving up, going into the nose bridge, and you can add in the little hairs for the eyebrows with a small brush, using sort of the same idea as we used in our drawing. We want to add in the little hairs because Angélica Dass's eyebrows are very natural. So just adding them in carefully. You may have to add in a couple of layers just to help make them stand out even more. You may also have to add in a little bit of black just so that it matches her hair. On my original painting, I added maybe in 3 layers to help with the eyebrows. If you're going very slow and taking your time, that'll be about how long it takes. Okay. You can also add in the eyelids with the same shadowy color that we've created. And we can use this color to outline the face once it's dry. Now, I'm going to show you the outline of the face now, but I would encourage you do the outline of the face once you have your background done. If we try to outline the face now, which you can still do, you may have to re-outline it again once you have your background painted in. And that's okay, but just keep that in mind. What you see me doing here is I'm trying to make a color for our outline that is, again, just a similar kind of tone, but a little bit darker. And I'm going to take my brush and very carefully outline. You can also use this to outline the ears. All right, we also have the mouth to do. Now for the mouth, we actually have quite a few colors that are on our mouths, and everybody's mouth color is a little bit different for them. For our artist today, I am actually able to spot two colors, which I'll show you here. So besides for our highlight, we actually see kind of like this sort of pink color. It's actually a much darker pink. And then we have this very cool tone around the edges. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and get some red. This is where the extra palette comes in. So I don't need too much of it. I'll take a little bit of blue and I'll mix those together. Now right now this is creating sort of a red, violet, or a purple, which is gorgeous, but it's not necessarily what I want. I'm going to go ahead and add in a bit of white. I have my other extra palette from the beginning off on the side there. And I'm going to go ahead and mix in, and that's going to lighten this up to more of a pinkish color. You can see that there. Again, I want this to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to add in just a smidgen of red, the tiniest bit of yellow, and there we have it. So I'm going to put this all over the lips to start. And then to help bring them more to life, we'll add a little bit more of that cool shade. There we go. And now, to help create sort of the outside part there where we saw the cooler shade, I'm going to be adding in a little bit more blue. Now ultimately, this is going to be a little bit similar to our skin tone here. So you can feel free to use some of the colors that you've already mixed. And we will use this to not only add in the line for the mouth, separating the upper from the lower lip, but we can also add this as sort of an outline around the lips. If you are more advanced, you can kind of blend that in to make it look even more realistic. Okay. Now, this is good, but we want this to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to use some of our outline color from before, and I'm going to use this to make that line, that separation between the upper and lower lip, stand out just a little more. And if you're really careful, you can sort of flatten the sides of your brush and use this color as well to outline the lips again. It's a little tricky because you have to be super careful, but you can give it a try. With this same color, you are going to add in on the lower lip, right about here, a little bit more of a shadow. Our lower lips can oftentimes have a little shadow right here because they're kind of sticking out just a little bit more. If you look like at a profile portrait of people, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. All right, now we can go ahead and start adding in a couple of highlights. For this, you will need white paint. I still have my white paint that's off on the side here, so I'm just going to pick a little bit of that up. You can add in a little highlight to the inside of the eyes. You can add it onto the lips. Different spots. It's a pretty intense highlight there. I think I might need to take off some of the white. Just take a clean brush, wipe some of it off. If that doesn't work, because it's already kind of dried, I can just go over it again with the lip color from before. Sort of soften that just a bit. You can also add highlights to different parts of the face, like the nose, cheeks. If you look at a picture of a person, not just our artist today, you'll notice different parts of the face are actually lighter because light is hitting it directly. So here we have the portrait. Again, if you are more advanced and want to get into more shading, go for it. Now, since the hair has dried, I'm going to go ahead and paint in the headband. Now for the headband, I've done a light blue, so I'm going to go ahead and put some white on the palette. I actually ran out. And that will be the last thing that I paint with you, but you have your background to paint in still. So at this point, once we have the headband painted in, it's going to be up to you to finish the rest of the painting and add in any further details. Since this is a realistic style painting that we've created today, I want you to have a lot of fun adding in extra details. So again, you can add in individual curls of her hair. You can add in highlights. You can even go more advanced with the shading on the eyes or on the lips themselves. On the example that I made for you today, if you want to rewind the video, you can see the subtle little shading that you can do. You can also add shading onto the headband. I'm going to paint it just a solid color with you today, but I'm going to trust you to add shading in yourself. Just mixing up a little bit more of my light blue. And again, being very careful, making sure that the edges are as crisp and as even as I can get them. I'm painting it in. You can tell there's a lot of concentration that goes into this. All right, just have the bottom here. A little more paint, and then she is done. Okay. All right, so there we have it. I hope you have a lot of fun creating this piece and adding in any more extra details. Obviously, we've made a little bit of a mess here, so be sure to clean up your space, toss any palettes if you've used paper plates and any paper towels, and be sure to clean off your hands. I know for me, I also have some cleanup to do myself. So here is the picture that I've created with you today. Remember, you still have your background to do and to add in any extra details. Here is the picture from the beginning with all the extra little advanced shadings. You can see there are tiny little spots for highlights. And I know it's a little difficult to see, but there are little spots of highlights on the cheeks and even on the nose in this picture. Again, once you have the entire background painted in, you can add in little swirls for the curls of her hair off on the sides. Just make sure that the background is dry before you do that. So I hope you had fun learning about our artist today, Angélica Dass, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye for now.